This kid is Voldemort. He just won't go away, and it's always going to be sticking around. Billy Napier is being sued by Jaden Rashada. Man.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever this is the podcast and on YouTube. Yesterday, we were available twice. Not because I wanted to. I had said, like, hey, maybe we'll do some live streams. I texted the subtext group on Sunday, and I was like, maybe we'll do some live streams. And then this happened. And yesterday we went live to discuss it a little bit. Today we will discuss it more and further implications of it. I will also ask if you don't mind to go to on YouTube, Whole Nine Sports YouTube channel, putting up some games there. Got an MLB Road to the Show going. Going to get another one. And then EA Sports College Football. We're going to do a ton of content. Going to have, I think we're going to do 3 dynasties and a road to glory. It's going to be wild, but we're going to do it all. But if you don't mind checking that out and subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate that. Trying to get that channel off the ground before EA Sports College Football comes out. But yeah, Jaden Rashada is suing Billy Napier. It came out yesterday morning, late morning, maybe early afternoon, that former Florida Gators signee Jaden Rashada is suing Billy Napier. So Florida Gators head coach Billy Napier, Florida Gators booster Hugh Hathcock, and former director of NIL and player engagement Marcus Castro-Walker. This all stems from that $13.85 million contract that Jaden Rashada signed and then the Gator Collective terminated. I'm going to go through my interpretation of this, as in the Jaden Rashada situation and the article that came out, the lawsuit and all that stuff. This is mostly public information, but my understanding is Jaden Rashada had a reported $9.5 million NIL deal with the Miami Hurricanes side of things. John Ruiz, whoever it was, with Miami to go to Miami. Then he had a $13.85 million contract to go to Florida. I'm not going to say to go to Florida. 3 weeks before signing day, that contract was terminated legally. I want to make that abundantly clear. In the terms of the contract, both parties, so the Rashada side of things and the Florida side of things, could terminate the contract at any point they wanted for any reason. It could have just been like, hey, actually, no, we don't like you. It could have been that. It could have been, hey, this is a stupid amount of money to give to a high school kid. Could have been anything. And they were allowed to do it. And Rashada could have just been like, hey, actually, I don't want to be a Gator. Cancel it. Both sides could cancel it at any point in time. And I do think that that's important and relevant, especially as far as this lawsuit goes, and even Hal Lewis, Florida Gators booster, he was tweeting about it yesterday, where he was just like, that's a bad contract to sign if you're Jaden Rashada, but you did it, and it made no sense to me that you did it. And also, yes, like Hal Lewis pointed out, Rashada only had that deal with the Gator Collective, yet he's not suing the Gator Collective. He's suing the individuals. And that's because Hal Lewis that's because Jaden Rashada is suing Napier, Hathcock, and Marcus Castro-Walker, not for just the deal, but he alleges that Florida, as in Billy Napier, Hugh Hathcock, and Marcus Castro-Walker, went into that contract and offered that contract with no intention of actually paying him that money. Keep in mind, That what Rashada's side of the Rashadas are implying, accusing, alleging, saying, whatever you want to say. They're saying that, again, that this contract was terminated weeks before early signing day, and that Napier, Hathcock, and Marcus Castro-Walker all said, hey, don't worry about the contract. We're going to pay you anyway. That's what his side is alleging. And I'm saying alleging because this is a legal allegation being made. Doesn't like that kind of makes sense to me that you know, a coach is like, don't worry, we'll sort things out, because that seems like recruiting. But also, that seems like a bad decision, like by the Rashadas to sign at that point. But again, being told, hey, you're going to get this. Also, I want to make this clear. This has a lot of precedent being set if this actually does go to court. There's going to be massive changes coming to just how NIL operates if this goes to court and everything that has happened comes out, right? I know some stuff that has happened that I can't say at this point in time whenever I do. And I told you this when all this initially went down in late 2022, early 2023, when this all happened. I told you there's some stuff that I can't tell you. And if I ever get the green light to tell you, I'll tell you. But I have not gotten that green light. And so until then, I'm not going to say it. Okay. But I will say that I think Jaden Rashada and his side kind of have a case, I guess, since it's the Rashada side of things. However, I want to make it clear based on what I read in that in the CBS Sports article, the On3 article, it doesn't seem to me like they're suing over the $13.5 million contract. I know everybody's saying the $13.5 million contract because they're suing because of that contract. Because that contract, the $13.85 million contract, had him back out of his alleged $9.5 million contract with Miami. And so what the CBS Sports article made it sound like was that he's more so suing because of, one, missing out on that Miami contract to sign a Florida contract, and two, he believes, or he alleges, I don't even know if he believes it, but he alleges that Billy Napier, Hugh Hathcock, and Marcus Castro-Walker all conspired to get him to commit to Florida, decommit from Miami, commit to Florida, sign with Florida, play for Florida, and never pay him that money. And I know that there's a lot of people going out because the reporting was that Hugh Hathcock had given Jaden Rashada the $150,000 to get out of his contract with Miami's John Ruiz. I want to make it clear. The Rashadas have said this is a $9.5 million contract. John Ruiz came out yesterday and said it was never $9.5 million. Like, we never had a contract like that. But John Ruiz also was like, oh yeah, like the Rashadas are great. So it was weird. I think he wanted to make sure that, hey, not 9.5, and hey, I hate Florida. Just want to throw that out there. And the Rashadas aren't lying about anything else but that. So Hugh Hathcock gave Jaden Rashada the $150K. And we were talking about this in the Locked On Gators Discord yesterday, where why would Hugh Hathcock give him $150,000 if he never wanted him to play? I think that's where things get a little murky. I think Hugh gave him the $150,000 to get him out of the Miami deal, wanting him to play. Then, when the Gator Collective terminated the contract, which again, they were totally allowed to do, then Rashada thinks that at that point, they terminated the contract. The Rashadas were like, oh, okay, then we're just going to flip back to Miami, or we're going to go somewhere else. And Napier, Marcus Castro-Walker, Hugh Hathcock were all like, no, like we're gonna give you the money anyway without a contract. Again, this is all what Rashada alleges. So I think that's the timeline, that Hugh gave him the money to get out of the Miami deal. Gator Collective canceled the contract. Then he, the three people that he's suing, the defendants, were still like, oh no, like, come on, we'll give you the money anyway. Like, we're going to sort it out. Don't worry about that. And I think that now Rashada feels like, because of that timeline, they never intended on giving him the money because they got him to decommit from Miami, turned down the NIL deal, and then they canceled the contract. Then he was told, no, don't worry, you're still going to get the money. And he never got the money. And so I think that's kind of where he comes from. So, and again, I kind of get it, because if you were told, hey, I'm going to give you millions of dollars, you sign a contract and then it gets canceled, and then you get, I mean, still money, but not that much of that amount of money, you're going to be pissed and you're going to want your money, right? So the way that CBS Sports worded the article made it seem like Jaden Rashada is more so suing for the damages of the miscontract with Miami, as opposed to going, oh, you told me you'd give me $13.85 million. Now give me $13.85 million. I think that the way, again, that CBS Sports worded it, I'm not a lawyer, was that I missed out on $9.5 million because I signed with you, and now I want that money. My expectation is that this will be settled out of court. There is reportedly, as in the Rashadas are claiming, they have a recording of Billy Napier saying, hey, if you sign with us on signing day, Hugh will wire you $1 million. That's a very relevant piece of information. It could be useless, but we'll talk about it in just a second. First, we're going to get a quick word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts are guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash for the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge dubs. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. And please do remember that eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. So Jaden Rashada, or Harlan Rashada, Jaden Rashada's father, alleges that they have, that they have a recording of Billy Napier saying, hey, if you sign on National Signing Day during the early signing period, we'll give you $1 million. So we'll wire you $1 million. Hugh Hathcock will wire you $1 million. And that's one thing that kind of throws me for a loop here. Because I don't think Billy Napier can be held legally responsible for saying, hey, if you sign, this other person will give you $1 million. Like, I don't think Billy Napier can be held legally responsible for saying, hey, if you sign, someone else will give you money. Like, I don't think I can be held legally responsible if I say, hey, if you listen to Locked On Gators, I don't know, Sony will give you $1 million. Like, I don't think I can be held legally responsible for that if you listen and Sony doesn't give you $1 million, right? I don't think that that's how that works. Could be, but I don't think that that's legally enforceable at that point, while that party's not present. Like, if I say, hey, I'll give you $1 million if you listen to Locked On Gators, and I don't know, my best friend will give you $1 million if you listen to Locked On Gators, and he's not here, but you listen and then you don't get $1 million. I think that's legally enforceable. If he was like right next to me and I was like, hey, if you listen, I'll give you $1 million, or if you listen, he'll give you $1 million, and he's like, shakes his head, nods, any kind of affirmation, sure, maybe that's legally enforceable. But I don't think in this instance. But also, let's say that recording does come to light. Okay? The recording comes out, hypothetical recording comes out, Billy Napier says it. Here's where we get murky. Florida is a two-party consent state. So Florida means Billy Napier needs to give permission to be recorded. I'm going to look up right now if California is a two-party consent state. Yeah, California is also a two-party consent state. So Jaden Rashada, who went to high school, lived in California. Billy Napier, who coaches Florida and coached Florida at the time of this happening. Both in two-party consent states, which means that in order for something to be admissible in court, both parties need to agree to being recorded before they're recorded. Okay? If Billy Napier did agree to being recorded and said that, then man, that is, you deserve whatever happens. But I highly doubt that Billy Napier agreed to be recorded and then was like, oh, by the way, we'll give you $1 million if you sign. I highly doubt that that was the case. So that would mean that that's inadmissible in court, which at that point means that, also, I want to make this clear. Jaden Rashada is suing that he thinks all three, Billy Napier, Marcus Castro-Walker, Hugh Hathcock, conspired together to get him to sign with Florida and never pay him. You have to prove that. And it's not as simple as just oh, like, you can't use that recording. You need to convince a jury fully, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that that happened. That's really hard. So legally, I don't think that this goes really the Rashada's way. I think it becomes a settlement because it's a bad public perception for Florida and everybody involved, and that's the only way Rashada's really getting money is at a settlement, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I just want to throw that one out there again. However, if that recording is inadmissible in court, I'm curious if that recording is used against Napier in another way. Like if the recording hits like Twitter or whatever, X, I don't care, Instagram, I don't give a damn. If it hits social media, at that point, could Florida use it as a, hey, we're going to fire you with cause? That's not my suggestion, by the way. I'm not even gonna get into that. But I'm just curious if that's a possibility. If it's inadmissible in court, I don't think that Florida can go, oh, it's inadmissible in court, but they played it in court and we heard it and now we want to fire you, because then Napier could have his lawyers just go, okay, well, guess what? Now I'm going to sue you for firing me without cause because that's inadmissible in court in this instance, and it'll be inadmissible in my case as well, so you won't have that proof. But if it hits just social media in general, I'm not sure if that still matters. As far as whether or not it's admissible in court, because then you're going, okay, well, this is from Twitter. I really, really don't know. But I'm also curious if now it kind of raises the floor as far as what Billy Napier needs to do to keep his job in 2024. Because now you're looking at, I've said for a long time, I think if you win 5 games and you look improved, like there's none of the special teams. We have 10 people on the field. There's none of the 2 men wearing the same jersey number. There's none of the stupid timeouts being burned at bad times and then leading to procedural penalties and things like that. I think if you win 5 games, but you look like a more cohesive unit, you keep your job. If you win 5 games, but you look like a more cohesive unit, but you also have this hanging over your head because this can drag out for a while, do you keep your job? If you've now got, because right now a lot of it's the culture's good in Gainesville, like the locker room's good in Gainesville, all that stuff. But right now, if you win 5 games, and again, you look improved. Like I'll give him that. Like you only won 5 games, but you look like a more cohesive team. It's just you ran the gauntlet as a schedule. Maybe there's some injuries, whatever it is. You win 5 games and you look improved, which before was my bar for why I think he would keep his job. Okay. But now you've got this public lawsuit hanging over your head. Does Florida then go, yeah, you're not worth it? Like this kind of scrutiny and negative publicity isn't worth 5 wins. So now do you get canned for that? And now do the boosters, because again, I believe that part of the reason the leash is relatively long is because boosters don't want to pay a big buyout, which they'd have to pay if they got rid of Napier at any point. Now do they go, yeah, I'm fine paying the buyout? Like, is that, I'm curious because you'd have to fire him without cause at that point. And it's not like in The Office where he's like, I do have cause. It is because I hate him. That's not how that works in coaching. It's actual, like, you need cause. Is this good enough for cause? Or if it's not admissible, which I don't believe it would be, is it big enough of a black eye for the boosters to go, yeah, I'm fine paying the buyout if he wins 5 games? Fine with it. Hell, if he wins 6, I'm fine with it. Like, does the floor raise? Because you don't want someone who is off the field, a distraction at this point. It's an off the field distraction, off the field scrutiny, whatever you want to call it. Who's off the field, no longer perceived as a Boy Scout, and isn't winning games. Because there's a big difference there between like, oh, we're not winning games, but we're building the program the right way. And then now it's like, well, are they? There's that question again. I don't know if it's going to change things, but it's worth the discussion, the conversation. I'm curious, in your opinion, does it matter now? Like, do more wins need to be had in order to keep the job? And I'll even set it at 5 wins, but improved on the field. But you just played a hell of a schedule. Is 5 wins improved on the field, played a hell of a schedule? Is that, if that's good enough as it is, or even if it's 6 wins, if that's good enough as it is to keep your job, now is it with this lawsuit? I'm very curious. Also, to wrap up today's show, I'm curious about I'm just saying curious a lot because I am genuinely just very intrigued by this. I was in the Locked On College group chat before, and I was just going off on this whole thing about all of the potential implications of this. And I'm looking at my phone now so that I can kind of read what my thoughts were at the time that this was all going down. Because we were kind of just in there, just all talking about this wild situation. But I'm curious because I believe that Jaden Rashada has some kind of deal with the NCAA where he will not be penalized for this, because you're not supposed to sign an NIL contract until you've signed your letter of intent with the program. And in this lawsuit, he admits to 2 of them. So I'm pretty convinced that he has some kind of deal where it's like, hey, as long as you turn everything over, you won't be penalized for this. If you turn everything over and there's something else, maybe you will be. I'm curious about that. Because that's the thing. And if he doesn't have that kind of deal, is he just kind of cool with being like, hey, as long as I win the lawsuit, I'm getting millions of dollars. I'm fine getting ruled ineligible. I'm curious about that. So that was the first thing that I asked the Locked On, or I sent to the Locked On College group chat. Then it was, how do you prove any of this? Like, how do you prove this? It's a 2-party consent state in both states, so the recording is probably going to be inadmissible. Unless you got it somewhere in the contract that you can record any conversations, which I don't think that would be the case. And if it was, then man, you deserve it. So I don't think that'd be admissible. And you can't even go, oh, let's bring in other recruits, because to my knowledge, the only contract ever terminated was the Jaden Rashada one. And so you can't really bring in another recruit and go, yeah, this contract got voided, and they were promising me that they'd still pay it or whatever. You can't do that because it's a unique situation. So you can't bring in other recruits. And so it's kind of just, at that point, you can read texts, but I don't know how much you'd be able to prove, especially because you have to prove that they conspired to do it together. I don't know how you do that at all, especially with this being such a unique situation. I don't get it at all. And I'm curious if this goes through and the buyout, which we just talked about. I'm curious if Jaden Rashada, if this does go to court and Jaden Rashada wins, does this now open the door on the flip side of things where collectives can go, hey, now that it's out in the open that there's been plenty of contracts signed, NIL contracts signed before they should be, and things like this, do they get to go, hey, I paid you to come to whatever, University A. I paid you to come to University A. You flipped to University B, and now you owe me my money back. Is that a thing that collectives will be able to do if this does go to court and if Jaden Rashada does win? Because that's the flip side of it. If part of this is, hey, I was promised this money, I didn't get this money, I want this money, and he wins it and he gets that money, and collectives now go, hey, we promised you this money, we gave you this money in exchange for you coming to this program, and then you didn't do that, give me my money back. I'm very curious to see if that can happen. Again, this is just me completely, I make this analogy all the time. This is me being Charlie Day in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I've never watched, but the clips seem very funny. This is my moment where I'm just going on the board like a maniac, and I'm just writing everything down. I'm just curious to see all the implications. And again, I said this in the group chat as well, and I said this to the subtext people, and I said this in the Discord. I was like, I'm going to be very disappointed if nothing comes of this, because I feel like this is going to be settled, because I think for all parties involved, it's better to be settled. In which case, do no changes come from rulings or rules of the NCAA? Is this just like one of those moments where you go, this is a pivotal moment in NIL history, college sports history, and then it's just negated by it being a settlement and then no legitimate rules changes coming? Curious. Also, I'm curious to know how this impacts Florida recruiting, because we talk about negative recruiting all the time. Now, I promise you, Miami, Florida State, Georgia, everybody that Florida battles with in recruiting, they're going to bring this up. I promise you, they're going to bring this up as negative recruiting. I'm also very curious to see if this causes recruits to go, I'm not going to just chase the bag. Like, I'm not just going to sign with whatever program gives me the most money. I'm going to sign with whatever program gives me money, sure, but is actually a better fit for me because I'm not just bag chasing. Like, I'm not just bag chasing, and then I'm going to be stuck in this kind of situation where I don't have money, no one's paying me. I'm going to a Pac-12 school that doesn't exist anymore, Pac-12, and then I'm transferring again. Like, I don't want to be hopping around. I want to have a home. I don't want to be a nomad. And I wonder if that changes things, if we see more commitments right at signing day or near signing day, where it's like, okay, now I'll commit now that I have the money and everything. It is a wild time to be a fan of college sports. Something tells me this will not be the last time we talk about this situation. Something tells me this will not be the last time we talk about Jaden Rashada on this show. Wild time for the Florida Gators. A lot of implications, a lot of possibilities coming from this. Man, am I glad to be on this wild ride with you. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We will be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators football. I think we're going to do a live stream tomorrow during the day. Hopefully it's not about a lawsuit. Just saying. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon, and I will see you all next time.